How's it going, guys? It is Blake here from the Avid Entries, and today I am finally getting to the new series that I kind of promised in the last Shadows announcement sort of vlog update sort of thing that I did, and yeah, so it's a new series that I'm going to, well, I guess you could say it's going to be a part of the Shadows playlist on this channel, but basically we're going to be doing something a lot different, something that I've never I've never actually done on any of my YouTube channels before, and that's actually read through a book. So no, it's not really going to be an audiobook format. You know, I'm pretty sure there's an audiobook already available for this book out there, but it's kind of just going to be a reading and sort of discussion or review segment sort of video, I guess you can say. In case you forgot, this is the book that I said we would be reading through. This is Shadows Before Dawn, written by Teal Swan, one of my favorite spiritual metaphysical teachers out there, or speakers rather. I don't know if people would consider her teachers. I guess some people do. Some people consider her a speaker, or even an advice giver. Anything goes, I guess. But yeah, that's what we're reading through today. Obviously, I'm not reading through the entire book in one day. I think what I'm going to end up doing is I really did want to possibly finish the whole thing by the end of August, but I just don't have that much time, I don't think. And on top of that, I don't want to rush through it either. I think realistically speaking, if I were to read like a chapter a day, I could definitely finish the whole thing by August or before the end of August, but to me that feels like rushing, and I feel like this book was written with taking your time and trying to integrate things in mind, and that's what you're kind of supposed to do, I feel like, with this book. So I don't really feel like reading through the whole thing as quickly as possible, just for the sake of finishing it by the time the Shadows and War of Shadows sagas finish on the Avid Entries in the Sanctuary. I don't feel like that would be a good idea. So this is probably going to spill into September a little bit. I think realistically it would be nice to get out 2 to 3 chapters or 2 to 3 videos a week from this. So that's kind of what I'm going to be aiming for, I think. So actually, now that I think about it, this is probably going to spill into like the end of, probably going to go into about the end of, if I keep on that schedule, like 2 to 3 chapters a week, I think this will probably conclude sometime before the end of September, which I think is pretty good. So I think how I'm going to do this is I'm looking at how long chapter 1 is because I want to be able to time these videos up properly, and chapter 1 isn't that long, and at the time that I'm recording this, it's almost 4 o'clock in the morning. So obviously a better time would probably be preferred to do these, and I think it's a little bit way too late at night for me to do these at this time every single time I record a segment for this series. But I think today it'll be fine. I think I have enough time. So I guess there's a preface section and there's a chapter 1 section, so we're going to kind of read through that. And I guess at the end, I don't know if I'll cut it or not. Maybe I won't. But normally what I did initially have in mind was I would read through the chapter, cut the video, and then record a review segment. The only thing is I did say that when reading this, I wanted to like highlight the things that stick out to me. I don't have the highlighter near me right now. I don't even know where one is in the house, and I don't feel like looking for one. So I think maybe I won't cut anything at this point, for this video at least. I think we'll kind of just read through it, and I'll try and keep in mind the things that stuck out to me. And if I do cut it, at the end, that just shows that I decided to cut it. So we're gonna start with the first. I don't know, should I read through? Okay, I don't know, I was thinking about maybe reading through the back, but once again, so this is Shadows Before Dawn, Teal, or if you see this, or any of the people who work for Teal, if you guys don't if you guys don't want the book being read on YouTube, just let me know and I'll gladly take everything down. But I think people read books on YouTube, right? Is that a thing? Like, this by no means is going to be as high quality as going out to buy the book for yourself or buying the audiobook. Like, this is pretty bootleg compared to those options, and the book it's been out for a while, so it's fairly cheap. And I would highly recommend it. So far, based on what I've heard, this is a very good book and it's helped a lot of people. So yeah, let's get started. All right. So there's a preface which is called Delivering Love to the Unlovable. And I'm going to kind of just read it like this. I think hopefully my audio is okay. Sitting like this is a very, very different way that I'm used to sitting. And actually, I'm going to close this down for now so it doesn't distract me, I think. Uh-oh, my chair is slowly going down. It's probably going to drop in the middle of me reading. Yep, it's dropping. Oh no. Hang on. Let me adjust my chair first. See, I'm not that tall of a person, but I'm tall enough to the point where, like, I can't, like, sit the way that I want to in chairs like I used to be able to when I was younger. Like, sit cross-legged or, like, you know, have both of your knees up like this on a chair. Those are the good old days. So comfortable. All right. So this is a preface. And then I'll read through chapter 1 as well. So preface. Whoops. So preface. Delivering love to the unlovable. Where's my water bottle? Okay, it's over there. I don't want to mess up too much. All right, here we go. We all know on some level that it's important to love ourselves. But when people say that all you have to do is love yourself, it's kind of like telling a child in kindergarten that he or she has to solve a college physics equation. Like that bewildered child, we have no idea where to begin. Oh, my chair is going down again. I'm going to try and finish this paragraph before I fix it. We are standing in a place where we don't love ourselves and haven't for some time. We simply have no idea where to start and where to go from here. On the matter of hating myself with a passion, let me tell you, I am an expert. My journey to a new life was long and complicated. I couldn't continue hurting myself. I had to find a way to love myself, or I knew I wouldn't make it. Okay, that is the paragraph. Let me adjust my chair again. This is going to be very annoying if this keeps happening. I'm not even that, like, far below the camera. I probably could just do this. Yeah, I think I'll just do that and sit like this with the chair all the way down. I'm closer to my mic this way too. And yeah, I won't have to keep adjusting the chair. All right, so let's keep going. So the book you hold in your hands contains both my gut-wrenching story to self-love and the techniques, and these pages are thick. They feel like they're 2 in 1, but it's actually just one page. I'm gonna be honest, I don't like it when books do that, because, like, I have to lick my fingers every time because I'm like, dude, how come I can't get the page? Anyway, where did I leave off? To self-love and the techniques and methods that enabled me to turn my life around. In part 1, I share my harrowing story and hold myself up as proof that self-love is achievable, even for the most desperate person in the direst of circumstances. Then, in part 2, I share what I call my toolkit to self-love, 29 techniques that I learned on my journey, which I trust will help you on yours. Anyone who enters this path is welcome. There are small steps and bigger steps. Whatever you are ready for at this time, enter slowly or jump right in. You have nothing to lose and a life full of love to gain. Very interesting. Sounds very promising. Sounds like she knows this is going to work. All right. And once again, you know, every now and then when I pause, I'll probably joke around for a little bit, but when you're reading this and you're hearing these words, try as best you can to take them to heart. I know it's kind of weird, like watching somebody over the internet read a book and telling you to, hey, take these words to heart. But yeah, try and get something out of it. All right, so that's the end of the preface. We've got chapter 1 here. Chapter 1, Childhood Lost. And I'm pretty sure she's going to sort of preface her backstory, because for a lot of people who don't know her, her backstory is a very, very, very important part when it comes to understanding how she got to where she is in life today, and just everything. Like it's actually very important. Like if you didn't know her backstory, I'm telling you, you're like missing out on a huge piece of the puzzle. So I believe she prefaces her backstory of her life just a little bit in pretty much every book she writes, though the only other book that I've read by hers is her first one, Sculptor in the Sky, and I believe she did preface her backstory in that book. So, and she usually does at the back of her books as well. That's what I was debating about reading, but it turns out we got to read through it anyway in here, or it's included in the book. So yeah, all right, here we go. So, a difficult beginning for a child. The journey from self-hate to self-love was one that I had no roadmap for. I started in the depths of emotional hell. I was suicidal with no hope left for my life, and I clawed my way, oftentimes on hands and knees, to this place of freedom, joy, and love that I stand in today. Let me assure you, it was worth it. That's easy for me to say because I am now standing on the other side. But it's my promise to you that if you keep placing one foot in front of the other in the direction of self-love, you will get here too. Even if you have faced the worst kind of pain, heartbreak, and despair. I would not ask you to go on this journey with me with an open heart if I did not first open my heart to you and share with you the story of how I got to where I am today. Just a warning up front, this is not a story for the faint of heart. And that's facts, because I've heard it quite a few times. I don't know how graphic she's gonna get, but it gets pretty graphic, man. I'm gonna tell you that much. All right, here we go. Boy, if it low-key feels like I'm gonna drop this because I'm holding it up with one hand. I'm not used to reading books like this. Okay. By society standards, my mother and father were good, liberal people who spent their lives in the pursuit of higher learning, justice, equality, and environmental protection. Having grown up in the 60s and 70s, they were well-educated hippie activists. Unknown to them at the time, neither of my parents had healed from their own emotional trauma before I was born. That's literally most parents. Think before you have kids. But nonetheless, oblivious to this, they met, married, and started a family like so many of their peers. While my father was fairly ambivalent about having children of his own, my mother, on the other hand, felt as if motherhood was one of her lifelong callings. She dreamed of having the perfect relationship with her children, and when she found out she was pregnant with a girl, she imagined exactly how this little girl would be. She felt that her daughter would be a carbon copy of herself, and she would have a friendly, happy child who shared her common interests and who would fit right into the family. Most of all, this perfect daughter would validate her as a person and as a mother, or so she dreamed. It must have been quite a shock to her when I began to grow into my own personality, because it soon became obvious that I was anything but this. I didn't fit the image that she had in her head of what her child would be like or what being a parent would be like. And as a result, my mother felt invalidated, just as she had felt during her own childhood. My mother was often at a loss as to what to do with me, and the result became an almost fatal dynamic. I had a mother who did not relate to me and who resorted to parenting methods based on conditional love, especially when she got flustered. My father was emotionally apathetic. Even though the physical aspects of my life appeared picturesque because we had a nice home and I was well taken care of, the emotional aspects of my life were torture. This segment is called A Girl with Too Many Gifts. These aren't chapters, by the way. This is kind of just like, it's splitting into segments, you know. Okay, a girl with too many gifts. My parents professed to love me, but they often admitted that they did not know how to love me. They had such a hard time relating to me that there were two running jokes in the house when I was growing up, both of which I found extremely painful as a child. The first ongoing storyline was that one day an alien spaceship would arrive to pick me up. I was just that strange to them. The second line I hated to hear, but I heard it often when they simply couldn't relate to me, was the beeswaxes have our baby. It sounds ridiculous, but it came about because I was born in New Mexico. Most of the hospital staff was Hispanic and therefore spoke Spanish. They had such a difficult time with the pronunciation of spelling of my parents' last name, Bosworth, that when they rolled me from the nursery into the postpartum room, the little label on my hospital crib said beeswax. The gap between my parents and me was increased 100-fold by that time. By the fact that I was born extrasensory with a number of extraordinary abilities that no one in my family could understand. The best way I can explain it is to say that our sensory organs are a bit like filters. This is important. They filter out stimuli in the environment around us so we can perceive solid objects and the usual things in our world. But to me, as a small child, it felt like my filters were blown. I figured out when I was older that I had sensory integration disorder, from sensory integration disorder, and I knew then why I struggled with my abilities every day throughout my early years. Of course, it's always hard to explain how the way that I see differs from other people, because I have very little idea how other people see. That's part of the beauty of individual perspective, but it's also what makes it hard to fully comprehend. Why does this feel so thick? These pages. To comprehend how different I view the world in comparison to what is considered normal by most humans. Here's an example. You and I could be calling the exact same color yellow, when in reality we are seeing drastically different colors. Things that should be solid don't appear solid to me at all, but I didn't figure that out until I was in elementary school, that other people were not seeing the same things that I was seeing. Really, it wasn't until I was 24 years old that I began talking to people to try and actually decipher what I perceive and how it is radically different from how and what other people see around them. It was a shock to me at first to realize the full depth of everything, but I've had some time now to better analyze this, and I'll try to explain it briefly because my personal story will make more sense when you understand what I was living with growing up and what I still manage every day. That was my phone, sorry. New segment, experiencing the world in a radically different way. So basically, I see everything that is in our world around us, not as if it is a solid object, but as if it is a vibration. To me, the amplitude and frequency of energy is what determines how and in what form that particular energy will express itself to me. Truly, I believe that everything in the universe is made of moving energy, what I call vibration. And everything that vibrates imparts or impacts information. This vibration is what determines the form in which energy will manifest. Since physical things are just expressions of energy, then solid objects are more or less an illusion that I do not have and cannot really see. And from the time I was born, I could see auras, which are thought forms both transmitting and receiving information to and from the physical structure they are associated with, such as the human body. To me, an aura around a person or thing exhibits shapes, textures, hues, sounds, and patterns. It emanates light as well. These effects colored my world as a child, and I naively thought everyone could see them. Naively thought everyone could see them. I came to realize that the varied characteristics of an aura were able to tell me valuable information about the physical person or thing that the aura is associated with. They can, at times, tell me a nearly complete story of who you are. An aura will respond to a thought and change its characteristics to match that thought. Auras are also highly receptive to interaction, so I can use my own energetic field to manipulate the energy fields of others to help them heal, not unlike the way in which practitioners of Reiki are taught to do. Energy fields are easy for me to feel with my hands, as water is to most people. I also see thought forms, which are thoughts that have enough inherent energy that they take on a configuration, shape, or visual appearance, and they may manifest to me in a non-static way. There are traditionally 3 types of thought forms. The first is energy, that takes the image of the thinker. The second is energy that takes the image of a material object, and the third is energy that takes a form entirely its own, expressing its qualities in the matter it draws around it. So this allows me to see, interact with, and communicate with entities, which some people might call ghosts, and I also perceive guides and angels, usually around myself or people I meet. This has given me the ability to act as a spirit medium and bring messages from a spirit to individuals on the earth plane. I didn't know exactly what it was as a child, but I have a hypersensitive sense of hearing. I can even hear tectonic plates moving in the earth. I'm sure you're familiar with how the tide is pulled by the gravity of the moon. What people don't understand is that the gravity of the moon affects everything, not just water. It pulls at the earth too, and I can hear it. Very interesting and spooky, I'm not gonna lie. I would not want to hear plates moving in the earth, that is for sure. This is going to sound strange, I'm sure, but full moons are very, very loud to me. Yeah, that's really scary. And I hate the sound of cotton balls, a sound I gather most individuals can't hear. People talking in other rooms, which would be inaudible to many, is not inaudible to me. I have hearing that is able to pick up the extremely high frequency of thought forms, so I also have clear audience. In other words, I not only see thought forms but can hear them too. My senses all have extra levels to them, so I can actually see around and taste colors. You could only imagine how distracting and bewildering all this was to me as a child and to my parents, who had no idea what I was seeing, feeling, or talking about most of the time. New segment. No such thing as a negative space. It was truly enlightening to me when I fully comprehended that I do not see negative space, which is what many people call air instead. My God, I can't see punctuation apparently, which is what many people call air. Instead, everything looks to me like energy with no spaces in between. Every energy field bleeds into every other energy field, creating one huge existence of interbeing. And because of this, I perceive how everything that is affects everything else that is. Metaphorically speaking, then, a pebble dropped into this energy that makes up all that is would create ripples that affect the entire field. The only reason humans seldom consciously perceive it that way is that generally our human senses, like sight, taste, and touch, give people the impression of objects being solid and finite within a boundary of separation between them and other things. That is very important. It's a very important thing to understand about physical reality, or the 3D, and this is something that I hear a lot of spiritual teachers like try and get across. It's one of the most like fundamental things they try and teach is that physical reality, or the 3D, is as individual, as separate as it gets. So that kind of enforces that when she says here, those things, sight, taste, touch, give people the impression of objects being solid and finite within a boundary of separation between them and other things. So yeah. So you quite likely see skin as a finite boundary where the body stops, but to me, the skin is a certain point of density within the energy that makes up a human. I actually see impressions of what is below the skin. When I meet a person, I'm able to see their bones, organs, nerves, veins, and so on. I'm also able to see the energy channels within the body, which have been labeled by some people as chakras and meridians. I can see where a person's energy is not flowing properly and what physical alignments he or she has. Not alignments, ailments. There's no G in there. And what physical ailments he or she has. And I can often see the vibration that is leading to why he or she has a particular energy blockage or a physical ailment. Furthermore, I can see whole life paths, which basically means I can see the future. But the future is not decided. What I am seeing is the outcome, a match the current state someone is in, which doesn't often change because our thought patterns tend to be habitual. But it can change. Thoughts are what create the world around us. So when we are able to change our own thoughts, our entire physical reality shifts, and those new thought patterns create our future. It's quite miraculous, and it's true. With my given abilities, I often see and emotionally feel our collective future as well, which comes to me as prophetic visions or dreams. In the past, I've had trouble with this, even to the point of having seizures in the days leading up to a natural disaster or man-made catastrophe or a war. Very interesting. New segment. And conflict as a child. So these special abilities might be called spiritual gifts, but I consider them a curse when I was younger. And the mainstream medical community at the time diagnosed me with mental illness. The things I could do were intriguing but frustrating to me, and quite frightening to my parents, who had never encountered anyone who had such abilities or knew anything about them at that point in time. I would get very upsetting reactions from people who met me as a child once they found out I could tell them what they are. Sorry. Let me reread that. I would get very upsetting reactions from people who met me as a child once they found out I could tell them what color they were because I would. What? Once I could tell them. Once I could tell them what color they were. What? Yeah, that's kind of confusing. I don't know if that's a typo. Once they found out that I could tell them what color they were because I could see their aura, or when I would start conveying a message to my teacher from her dead father, I would try to be helpful, and I would often feel the urge to lay my hands on someone's body and tell them that they were sick and what they had. But I felt like something was seriously wrong with me when they backed away looking frightened of me. I was an only child, but I felt as if I didn't belong with my parents, that I didn't really fit anywhere. But that lonely feeling of isolation were nothing compared to what came next. I hardly understood anything about the complexities of life as a young girl. When suddenly I was faced with the adult situations that no one should ever be forced to endure. And that is the end of chapter 1, the end of the preface. However, I'm not sure how long her backstory goes. Chapter 2 seems to continue it, and chapter 2 is quite long. So I was thinking about maybe just continuing chapter 2 because I think it's probably going to end. No, never mind. I think it's a 3-part thing. So it's a 3-part chapter thing. So since this is kind of just giving you the breakdown of sort of her life leading up to now. I think what I'll do is I'll try to get out these 3 chapters this week, before the end of this week. So I'll get out her trilogy arc, I guess you can say. I'll read through those all before the end of the week, try and get those all uploaded. And then next week, we can get into the nitty gritty, hopefully. So that's kind of like the plan. Obviously, I could try and do more, but I don't want to rush through things, like I said, even though this is kind of just the preface. So I'm gonna leave off here. There's not really too much to review, but I will say that like a lot of these things are pretty important to know. Like if you just want to know the author as a person, yeah, I mean, she uses her gifts in her teachings at her conferences a lot. Yeah, it's really important to also know that she never comes across as like this Jesus figure. Like I said, or like she said in the book, a lot of these gifts she have proven to be very much so an inconvenience rather than a convenience in her life, just because being different on Earth sucks. Let's be real. Yeah, let's be real. Like, come on. Humanity has been around for how long, and people are just now starting to take mental illness, like people are now starting to take that seriously. And I don't mean like this as in like, oh, mental illness isn't real, but I'm talking about all levels of mental illness that people deem ill, but in fact people are just different, people operate different. And I feel like eventually we'll probably end up shedding the term mental illness, because in my opinion that shit's just straight up insulting to some people. I mean, it's okay. Some people might accept the term, but yeah, I don't think it can rock for everybody. But anyway, that is it for chapter 1 today. So try and get out chapter 2 within the next few days, and then chapter 3 before the end of the week. So that is the plan going forward. I guess you guys can let me know your comments below. What do you think of her preface story so far? But this is just the beginning, and I can't wait to continue with the next chapter. So I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care.